It's Ioannis Sanchez. And Ioannis Sanchez is one of the most amazing bloggers in the world. And she doesn't do it from a country like, the Netherlands or something, but she's writing from Cuba. And she's giving her personal insights into life in Cuba, and she has lots of followers. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here, and we were planning on having her a video, and what I understood is that she cannot be here technically. But I still want to touch upon a couple of issues, precisely using her as an example, because Cuba is also one of these countries where there's a combination of tools used by the government in order to make sure that their citizens do not use their right of freedom of expression online. And it's even though I can assure you that this particular problem is mostly technical here, but in the end, it can be brought back to the political level, because first of all, in Cuba, there is a very extensive use of censorship, online surveillance, and ways of blocking access to information regarding human rights and democracy, but also other issues that might threaten the regime in Cuba. But it's also the question of infrastructure. Governments are getting more and more able, or more agile, you could say, in repressing the internet, not so much in its use, but also through its infrastructure. Before you had free internet cafes for in particular countries, but now, for example, there are more and more laws in also some Western countries about certain identification of users, that you have to register with your ID if you want to even access the internet at a cyber cafe. And basically, in general, the internet in Cuba, the infrastructure is so weak that it's very slow, and it really basically scares out anyone who wants to make proper use of it. So besides kind of online surveillance and censorship and infrastructure, there's of course also the issue that we already touched upon when we talk about Kareem, but actual, physical, real-life oppression of bloggers. The governments simply are afraid of these people who are suddenly using this medium for their own, as their own microphone, basically. So it's a sad thing that Ioannis Sanchez couldn't be here, and at the same time it also makes us, it's an indication of the challenges that we face when we speak about using the internet and human rights and democracy, because this is not going to come naturally. If we're not realizing that the freedom of the internet is something that should be defended, and it's not something that just whatever got met. If we forget about this, then the virtue and the benefits of the internet we've been hearing around here might be lost someday. Again, the nationalization of the internet, more and more government control. It's something that I think we should be very much aware of. We have another 5 minutes. In fact, you guys do have these little pyramids, I think, on your desk that are microphones. They're a bit hidden microphones, you realize they're microphones. But I would say that if you have any questions now, any comments, then please bring it on. Either to the panelists or particular comments you have from your own experience of using the internet in the fight for democracy and human rights. I see someone here.
I just want to bring up 2 points. One is concerning Ioannis Sanchez, which is that we were in contact with her, were able to speak with her on a couple of occasions. She did want to be participating. She was hunting around Havana for a place to be able to get access to this type of technology. We tried getting hold of her today, but it's been very difficult because she took part in an open demonstration a couple of weeks ago, and she is being very much pressured, and they're trying to keep her sort of boxed in, and also because this is public and it was announced ahead of time, they know that she would be invited to speak at this time, so they will make it very difficult for her. The second question I want to ask, which is on another subject, is the issue of companies like Yahoo collaborating with the Chinese particularly to target folks using email and then providing the information, so then they are prosecuted, tortured, in some cases have died. I think Amnesty International indicated back in 2001, 2002, 33 cases of prisoners of conscience that were bloggers, and I think there was a number from Reporters Without Borders this year, about, I think, 48 cases, and out of the 33, 3 who died under mysterious circumstances. I don't know if anyone would like to address that.
Yes. Okay, but we're very much aware as well of these things happening. And, you know, we're people who are using the internet in order to remain secure. You know, we're fighting for the minorities, where if you fight for their human rights, you can yourself will be targeted as well. This includes even Iranian Muslims, for example, fighting for the rights of Baha'is in Iran, and places, and they use Yahoo, they use Google, they use, you know, these sites, and what does it mean if Google as a company can just, you know, throw down the documents in the face of the Iranian regime and say that's exactly what you're looking for, now write us a check and we'll go on happy, you know? What about the, you know, really, if Google, their motto is go be evil, even though the Iranian regime has the same one, right? I mean, really, I think Google and Yahoo and other companies really need to step up and realize they have massive, enormous amounts of responsibilities for literally human life. These are really human life questions here. So, send out that message, please.
Right? Over there or up there?
On neo.org, we've had massive experience with mobilizing optimism, getting people to get behind something quickly. We've been able to raise tens of thousands of euros for NGOs in as little as a week or two. I find that there is a global pessimism that we rail against. And I'd like to ask Esther again two questions. One, does she feel that it is better to promote an optimistic point of view on the net or a pessimistic one? Because we hear all these terrible stories, they're very emotional. But do they do the real job of mobilizing people? The second question is, how big a role is there for non-government organisations to actually own their own websites, to own independent websites that can't be shut down, can't be silenced by corporate interests?
Question was about the issue of pessimists, whether pessimists or negative messages work in actually mobilizing people behind a cause.
I think it's very important to be 100%, 150% optimistic about everything you do and hopeful, because if you weren't optimistic, you know, you really wouldn't be putting as much effort into these things. I mean, cyber activism has proven to be entirely effective. Sometimes it works, unfortunately sometimes it doesn't, but when it does, it's absolutely beautiful, and it just shows that if enough people really come together, regardless of any political ideology, regardless of really anything, and that's what we're doing with Ministries.com, is that we realize that there are actually a lot of young people who are really optimistic about the future. They know that at some point in their lives they will have this human rights, and they are right now the generation that will make this possible. And that's not, that's a promise for me personally.
I know you have two questions. Nadine also wants to answer this question. So.
I'd like to bring an example of optimism and that international pressure really does make a difference on the internet. A few years ago, I led an international campaign to save the life of a young girl on death row. Her name was Nadine Fasahi. 3 men attacked her, tried to rape her, and out of self-defense, she stabbed one of the men who later died in hospital. She was convicted of murder and sentenced to death. And at that time, I didn't know anything about her case, but I tried. I learned about it. I started a petition online. After almost a year, we had 350,000 signatures, and that was the weight I needed to then go to international groups like Amnesty or visit the Canadian Parliament, talk to other members of Parliament around the world, delivering this 350,000 petition to the United Nations, and they took this issue seriously. Now, it's a long story, but with the mobilization of MySpace, friends, Facebook, everybody getting involved, it had so much pressure to the government in Iran